Okay, let's talk about one of the weirdest paradoxes in all of tech right now. How on earth can a service from the biggest video platform in the world have over 100 million paying subscribers when it feels like, nobody actually uses it? No, I am serious. It is a real question. We all use YouTube, right? It gets something like 47 billion visits a month. It's a massive, and yet its music app feels like a total ghost town, completely overshadowed by giants like Spotify and Apple Music. How is it possible that Google, with all its power and reach, built a product that people are paying for but not really using? And when I say people are paying, I mean a lot of people. The official number is just staggering: 12 crore 50 lakh paid subscribers. That's a number that should make it a dominant player in the game. But it just doesn't feel that way at all, does it? And here is where the puzzle gets even stranger. If you took a global music streaming race, that number actually puts them in a shocking second place. Yes, they are ahead of both Apple and Amazon, and only Spotify is bigger. This is the figure that YouTube loves to brag about, but well, it hides the real story. And here is the twist. The big reveal: when you actually break down that 125 million, you see that over 70% of those subscribers, they didn't actively choose YouTube Music. They are coming from the bundles, which means they signed up for YouTube Premium mainly for one thing: to get rid of ads on regular videos. The music app, that was just a little bonus they never even asked for. So it turns out that massive subscriber number is kind of an illusion. People are buying an ad-free video experience, and YouTube Music is tagging along for ride. Now that explains the number, but it doesn't really explain the total lack of cultural impact, and it points to a much bigger problem. To really get what's going on here, we have to look at Google's history. This is not the first time they have had a product with incredible reach that just failed to get people on board. I mean, remember Google Plus? They forced it on every single Gmail a YouTube user, but it was a ghost town that eventually just got shut down. It is a pattern. Having access to users doesn't mean you can actually make them use something new. So, if it is not just a marketing problem, there has to be something wrong with product itself. And when you dig in, you find three pretty critical flaws that explain why even the problem who technically have it for free just don't bother to use it. The first flaw is a big one: clutter. The second you open the app, you are just hit with a confusing mess of content. It doesn't feel like a clean, focused music experience. It feels more like a messy junk drawer full of random videos and songs of all jumbled together. And it really all comes down to a fundamental difference in philosophy. You see, Spotify is narrow and deep: music, podcast, audiobooks. They each have their own dedicated space. But YouTube Music is a wide and shallow. It just throws official songs, live concert clips, fan-made lyrics videos, and DJ mixes all into the same feed. It is a quite literally the kitchen sink approach. Now the second flaw, this one is total deal breaker for anyone who actually cares about how their music sounds. To put it bluntly, the audio quality is just not good. It compromises that real music enthusiasts are never ever going to accept. I mean, the difference is just stark. YouTube Music maxes out at 256 kilobytes per second. Meanwhile, Spotify is up at to 320. And Apple Music gives you true lossless audio with Dolby Atmos. So why is it so far behind? Well, it's built on YouTube's video pipeline, an infrastructure that was designed to be good enough for video, not as good as possible for music. And that was not enough. There is the third major problem: feature lag. The app is just constantly playing catch up. It feels years behind on features that users now consider totally standard. Just take two basic features: the ability to pause music on your phone and resume it on your laptop. Spotify had that back in 2015. YouTube Music might get in 2025 collaborative playlist that has been staple on Spotify for over a decade. But it is a brand new, just added things for YouTube Music. When you are this far behind, why would anyone even think about switching? Okay, so the product has flaws, it is cluttered, the quality is worse, and it is missing features. Fine, but it's already included with YouTube Premium. It's effectively free for 125 million people. So why are not they just using it anyway? This is where we have to go beyond the product itself and get into something a little deeper. Human psychology. So to understand this, let's look at two totally different bundling strategies. When Microsoft bundled Teams with its Office 365 suite, business started using it in droves. Why? Because businesses make logical, rational decision based on cost. It's already paid for, so let's use it. Simple. But YouTube Music is a consumer product. So let me tell you, consumer choices are driven by very different forces. And this right here is to the absolute heart of the matter. Just your product is everywhere just because it's ubiquitous. That doesn't equal adoption. For consumer, logic and value on paper, they rarely win. What really wins are two things that are much harder to pin down: behavior and emotion. This is explained by a really powerful psychological idea called endowment effect. It basically means we place a much higher value on things we feel like we already own. So for a long time, Spotify users, all those years are curated playlists, their library of liked songs, their personalized recommendations. That whole collection feels incredibly valuable to them. A free alternative that starts from the scratch just can't compete with that feeling. And then there is the other barrier: switching cost. Now this isn't about money, the real cost is the all behavioral. It is a mental effort of having to learn new interface, the frustration of breaking a comfortable habit you do every day, and challenge of building up trust in a whole new platform. That cost is very real, and for most people it is just too high. Just think about how this actually plays out in our daily habits. Our music listening is already split. When you want to listen to a specific album or your workout playlist, what do? Your muscle memory opens Spotify or Apple Music. When you want a long ambient mix like Lo-Fi Girl and maybe some rain sounds to focus, your muscle memory goes to a regular YouTube. There is just no mental space left for YouTube music to fit in. And that really is the ultimate takeaway here. When you are in a battle against an entrenched, beloved competitor, being good enough is just not good enough. And being free isn't good enough either. You can't just drag people over to slightly worse platform because you are not fighting a rational decision. You are fighting a deeply ingrained habit, which leaves us with a final and I think pretty fascinating question. For consumer tech that's so deeply tangled up with their daily lives and our emotions, can a product ever truly win just by being bundled or by being free? Or will the sheer power of habit always be too strong to overcome?